Greetings and welcome to the Stek vs 20 years of Sonic the Hedgehog. Unfortunately, I can only really cover a game if I actually own it. And unfortunately, I don't own a copy of Sonic CD. I never actually owned a Sega CD, and still to this day I've never owned a Sega CD. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to cover 3 games in one right now. I'm going to cover Sonic 3D, Sonic CD, and Sonic Spinball. And in the background what you'll see is the gameplay footage from Sonic Spinball and Sonic 3D. So, I hope you enjoy. Sonic Spinball released between Sonic 2 and Sonic 3. The game features Sonic as the ball in a large pinball style level, with the player having limited control over Sonic's movement with the D-pad and controlling flippers with D buttons. Each level has several pinball style hazards, such as not being able to drop below the level due to various traps. The levels each consist of several areas set up like separate pinball tables, connected through various means, with secret areas and hidden Chaos Emeralds to find. To progress through the levels, the player must complete challenges to move forwards towards the level boss. The game features characters from the TV series Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog and is set in Mount Mobius, which is the name of the planet the series is set on. Personally, I never really liked the game. I think, to be honest, this is just the fact that I've spent most of my time on the first stage, and it's because I was never really good at pinball games, and as a result, you know, I just spent a lot of time getting really annoyed at this game as I constantly failed over and over again and spent ages trying to flip into one little hole. But hey, and that is pretty much it for Sonic Spinball. It's not a particularly complicated game. It's basically just getting to the end of each level with the idea of defeating Robotnik, the same as any standard Sonic game, but this time you play a ball instead of, well, essentially Sonic. So it's a bit of a spin-off title really, rather than an actual Sonic title, but since I actually owned it, I thought it was worth mentioning. And this is Sonic CD. Sonic CD's plot centers around stones capable of time travel. Robotnik has captured Little Planet and begun converting it into a base in the effort to locate the time stones. As Sonic, you must not only complete the levels, but travel to different time periods in an effort to save the future. There are 4 time periods to visit: past, present, both good and bad futures. Each looks distinctly different, and badniks are affected by the passage of time, with some being damaged in the present and most being damaged in the future. But if the player destroys the badnik creation machine in the past, then in the future there will be none. As well as the creation machine, there is a hologram of Metal Sonic in the past that when destroyed will allow the animals to return to the past and present. To get to each time zone, Sonic must run past a sign labelled either past or future, and to maintain the top speed for a few seconds to be transported, but will be transported to the bad future unless the creation machine has been destroyed. Zones have 3 stages, with a boss battle as the 3rd stage in the bad future unless the player has achieved both good futures in the 2 previous stages. Bosses are more complex and diverse than most games, with Sonic having to perform tasks such as running from Metal Sonic or be the ball in a large pinball machine whilst trying to hit Robotnik. Introduced into the game is Metal Sonic, who is more fleshed out and important to the story by comparison to Metal Sonic in Sonic the Hedgehog 2. He appears more menacing and an adversary for Sonic, rather than just a toy Robotnik threw at Sonic to keep him busy. Also introduced is Sonic's groupie, Amy Rose. She greets Sonic with her adoration and follows him for a short period of time before being captured by Metal Sonic. Amy will become more pivotal to the story and will be mentioned a lot more in Sonic Adventure. The special stages for Sonic CD have Sonic running around a track collecting UFOs that contain rings or speed boost. Sonic must collect all the UFOs before the timer runs out to get the time stone, but if the timer is running low, there will be a special UFO that awards more time. Collecting all the time stones guarantees the good future in all stages. The spin dash for this game is slightly different and has an alternate mode. By pressing up and revving up Sonic, it will run at top speed in the direction he is facing rather than spin. As with Sonic games, leaving Sonic standing will have him get bored and show it. However, in Sonic CD, this was taken further. If the game is left for several minutes, Sonic will say "I'm out of here" and jump off the screen, followed by the game over screen appearing. For several reasons, Sonic CD can be thought to be the real Sonic 2, as the special stages are entered in the same way as Sonic 1, and Sonic looks more like he does in Sonic 1, with no tails. The spin dash uses the Sonic 1 roll, but the reality is that both games were made at the same time by different teams, and it is possible that Sonic CD was started first despite being released after. I can't really say, how I feel about Sonic CD. It's due to the fact that I never actually owned a Sega CD, which I mentioned before, and I never really played that much of this game. Obviously I've played bits of it, but I've never played it to its full completion, and never got that much into it. And so it's time to carry on to the last game for this video. Sonic 3D, known as Flicky's Island in Europe, and Blast in America, and in some cases Blast Flicky's Island. The game consists of running around stages to collect small birds known as Flickies, and lead them to a ring, returning all the birds to the ring to complete the stage. The game makes use of the Sonic staple of small animals coming out of robots, which is where you will find the Flickies. There are 4 different colours of Flickies: red, pink, blue and green. When collected, they will follow behind Sonic in a line like a conga. The Flickies will stop following if Sonic is hit, or if the individual Flicky is hit, but they can easily be collected again. If a player collects 50 rings and finds either Knuckles or Tails in a stage, the special stage can easily be accessed. In the Mega Drive version, a player runs down a course of platforms collecting rings, avoiding bombs and pitfalls. And the Sega Saturn or PC version of the game features a better looking version of the Sonic 2 half-pipe special stage. Well, my only real criticism of this game is, it doesn't take much to sum up really. It's not a particularly complicated game. It's more of a standard Sonic game with an attempt to move forwards in the series, which I suppose does really count as a plus point. But the thing is that the fact that it's a really early prototype for a 3D Sonic game, it can make the platforming quite difficult, unfortunately. The one thing I will say for this game is it does actually contain my favourite cheat code of all time. I know a lot of people always cite the Konami code, but this is the code. If I ever tell people when codes were enjoyable, this is the code I always tell people. It is the Sonic. I don't know about the other versions, the Saturn version or the PC version or even the American version, but the European version had the Barracuda code. That's right, by pressing B, A, right, A, C, up, down, A to spell Barracuda. I can't actually remember what the code does, to be completely honest, but I just like the way that it's called the Barracuda code. And that is it. It's not a particularly complicated game, as I said before. It's just a step in the right direction. And strangely enough, this is one of the first games that wasn't actually made by an American or Japanese Sega company. It in fact was made by a company called Traveller's Tales, and they now make the Lego games. And that's it. That's Sonic Spinball, Sonic CD, and Sonic 3D. Well, I hope you've enjoyed this 3-parter, or at least stuck around to hear it all. And I'm TheStek. See you around.